So Terry Jackson, the executive director of the WNBPA, released the following statement, saying in part, quote, "Here is the answer that the commissioner should have provided to the very clear question regarding the racism, misogyny, and harassment experienced by the players. There is absolutely no place in sport or in life for the vile hate, racist language, homophobic comments, and misogynistic attacks our players are facing on social media. This is not about rivalries or iconic personalities fueling a business model. This kind of toxic fandom should never be tolerated or left unchecked. It demands immediate action and, frankly, should have been addressed long ago." So then Cathy Engelbert took to social media late last night, clarifying in part, she said, quote, "There is absolutely no place for hate or racism of any kind in the WNBA or anywhere else." So with all of that as background, now welcoming in our women's basketball reporter, Alexa Philippou, who's currently in Indiana covering the Aces and Fever game tonight. And Alexa, I understand that you spoke with Aces players right after Engelbert's comments aired. How are players reacting to what she said and maybe more importantly, what she didn't say?
Well, Malika, there's no doubt about it. The players were disappointed in how Cathy Engelbert handled this moment. And what they really wanted her to say was just flat out that this racism, homophobia, misogyny that a lot of the players are experiencing is not okay. And Alicia Clark was one of the players I spoke with at Aces practice yesterday, and she said that that's all they really wanted was her to just say it's not okay. And she acknowledged that there is this darker turn that a lot of the fans are maybe how they're interacting with the players, the sorts of vitriol that they're directing towards players, and that it's beyond just basketball, that it really is seeping into that racism, that homophobic and that misogynistic language. And so that's something that they really felt like was a missed opportunity from Cathy Engelbert to really address and say, we don't support this sort of behavior in our league. And Brianna Stewart was another player who, after her game yesterday, came out and really echoed those sentiments and said that as much as the players love this sort of influx of fans that have come from this rivalry, at a certain point, enough is enough. And that's what they really hoped that Cathy Engelbert would have said in those comments.
It really feels like this discourse surrounding some WNBA fans has reached a tipping point. Why, though, Alexa, is it striking this chord now to the degree that it is with WNBA players?
Well, I think what's important to remember is that this league is at its core intersectional. This is a league that is made up predominantly of Black players, of Black women. It's a league where a lot of people are members of the LGBTQIA+ community. And so what they're saying is this is not just normal fan behavior that they're experiencing. It's going towards more of the harassment type. And it's more going into that realm of racism, misogyny, homophobia. And it's something that they feel like is crossing a line. And I thought Kelsey Plum really kind of illustrated that point too. She said what really was missed in Cathy Engelbert's remarks is that there's a difference between rivalry and racism. And that's something that they really want to make sure people understand. And that this is a league too they always are standing up against racism, for equality, for justice. And so they have no doubt about it that they want to say, hey, racism is something in particular that has no place in our league.
Alexa, thank you so very much. We certainly have seen WNBA players historically stand up and be at the forefront of these conversations, and we're glad they're doing so once again. Chiney, as a former player, as someone who covers this league extensively, what do you make of these comments that we heard from Cathy and now the fallout?
This was definitely a missed opportunity by the commissioner to really denounce the disrespectful discourse and its impact on the players. Now, I'm someone who talks about these amazing players, and my mentions are in shambles. I can only feel and empathize for the players that are actually playing the game. These types of comments that they receive after games are truly out of bounds. For example, Diamond DeShields, someone that I know very well, someone who has survived a spinal tumor, who had to relearn how to walk, who was paralyzed at some point. It's a miracle that she's still able to play right now. People were wishing her dead based off of that tumor after a game. That is not okay. That's not something that, as Cathy said, you just ignore it and move on. Aaliyah Boston started off the season and could not handle the social media, and so she said, I am completely unplugged, which is something that you normally do, but there should be more protections, or at least a standard by the commissioner to say, our job is to lift players up, and we don't want this standard of a lot of new fans potentially coming in. And with their I guess you can say guided fandom, maybe bringing in some things that don't belong around the game. Now, I will say this, Cathy Engelbert, she's been very focused on growing the business, and she's been doing a heck of a job at doing that. But I think at the same time, she sort of lost a little bit of the sentiment of the players because they're not just products, they're also people.
Right. And I think that what Alexa said about this being a league of intersectionality is so important. This is a league that is built so much on the backs of Black women, on the backs of people who identify as part
inclusion,
of the
values,
community. Absolutely. And so when you are asked a simple question of, do you stand up for us and will you believe in us? The answer, as Terry Jackson said, needs to be unequivocally yes. Thank you so very much for sharing your thoughts on that.